I'm Carrie Gard. Welcome to Tea Time with Tech Marketing Leaders. Welcome back to the show. I love a good live because that means that we have listeners who have questions and we are here for it. So if you have joined us on LinkedIn or YouTube, please say hello. We'd love to know you are here, and then we look forward to all of your burning questions. I'm sure you have many. I know I do. So if I'll be asking tons, and if you want to drop yours in, that's great. And if we get to them, we will. And if we can't, we will address them asynchronously if you watch this after the show, because it's the beauty of LinkedIn Live. Like, we will have this live, and then it'll live on. It'll live on. It's wonderful. I'm a fan. I'm a fan. This week, I have Lee Moscowitz. Lee is a data-driven growth marketing expert specializing in generating awareness, engagement, leads, and revenue. He has helped a wide range of organizations ranging from SMBs to enterprise companies to innovate startups grow through an impactful digital marketing experience. He is passionate about B2B and SaaS marketing, CRM and data hygiene, paid media, content strategy, RevOps, and inbound marketing. Experiences in growth marketing and digital marketing strategy management and execution. Right now, he is a fractional growth marketing consultant and advisor, as well as a podcast host on the Sassiest podcast that, if you haven't tuned in, you definitely should. And Sassiest by design. I love that so much. I love telling people about it. It's the best. It's the best. Lee, welcome to the show.
Hey, Carrie, thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and spill the tea. I like how your show is dedicated to the tea. I have a segment on Spill the Tea on Leader B called Spill the Tea with Lee. Exactly what it sounds like. So excited to have tea time with you.
Oh, we're going to spill all of the tea. Every segment is about some tea spillage. So yes to that. I love that you have a little hat tip in your own show, because it is fun to get down to it, right? Like, no holds bar. Let's really share with each other our journeys and what's in our way, and most importantly, how we can learn from one another. I think that's one of the things that I've really loved about podcasting the last 4 years. I don't know about you, Lee, but especially in sort of these industries, these complex audience industries like cybersecurity and data management platforms and those sort of things, where marketers aren't afraid to share what's working. We always feel so scared. We're like, oh, our secret sauce, and we can't share the secret sauce. It's like, no, like, let's figure this out together. And it's been a wonderful journey that way for me. How about you? You've been podcasting for a while now. Are you getting the same experience?
Yeah, so I haven't been doing it quite as long as you. By the way, what's up, Trevor? Thanks for joining us today. I've been doing it for a few months now, and I think just one of the beautiful things about marketing is marketers are always, I mean, maybe not all marketers, but most marketers are so willing to share with each other what works, what doesn't. Even if you're kind of quasi competitors, like, people are very willing, and I think it just speaks to marketers because there's always places to find inspiration. There's different things that keep us up at night, but also there are so many components of marketing, and I know that's what we're going to get into, that one person isn't going to know every single thing about it. So I'm a firm believer, shows like this, podcasts, there's no better way to build a relationship with somebody while also learning a lot.
And one of the great things for me, having done it for a bit now, is I feel like I've been able to be on, like, the cutting edge a bit, because I could sort of feel the trends of, like, what was coming, which is going to be beautiful for this conversation today, of how we really lean into where we are and how we got there. Before we get there, though, Lee, sprinkle a little trail there for people to hang on to. Trevor, always lovely to see you. Thank you for joining us. Before we get into the heart of our conversation, what's your story? Where, you have a podcast now, you're helping out from a demand gen standpoint for some consulting, but how did you get there?
That is a great question. And I think, again, speaking to the different aspects in marketing, it's a matter of kind of falling into digital marketing is what I did first. I fell into digital marketing. Like most people, you're like, I'm going to be man and work on commercials. And then everyone's working on digital. So fell into digital. realized that was it. And each time I worked on things and spent more time doing things, I fell into something else. So it's like, oh, digital marketing, oh, digital ads and HubSpot, oh, demand gen, oh, growth marketing. So really doing that, like I got my career started by being at a really small out of home and digital marketing agency, and I literally learned by doing. And I that's exactly what it sounds like. So learning by doing, failing, learning from your failures, and then leading from that. So my story, tale as old as time, agency marketer, worked on more campaigns than hairstyles I've had. And after I built marketing teams at my agencies, led marketing ops and paid media teams, I knew I needed to go in house. And that's where I really fell in love with the whole startup-y one model, two vibe, but also just like the work culture and the output. And that is what brings me here today with you. And then I started Lee2B, the sassiest podcast for B2B and beyond. You have to say it every time because you
It's the
have to.
best. You do.
And yeah, it's really just, a conversation like this where I have guests who I find are interesting or smarter than me or funny or all the above. And we talk about different issues that impact mostly B2B marketing, but like I also go into DEI, recruiting, things like that. And it's really just a place where I'm somebody who I like to listen, but I also just can't listen to ABM all day. I can't listen to email marketing all day. And like I also need to have some like fun in the mix. Like I need to talk about pop culture and fun. And so I make this podcast for me, but obviously for everyone else. I wouldn't be making it if nobody else was listening.
Oh, I love that because I've sort of like struggled with, do I just have tech marketing leaders on the show? But then I've run into really interesting people. I actually had me and a friend were talking right before a client joined, and we were having this really fun conversation. And the client joined, and they were like, "This is like the best podcast ever." And I was like, I turned to my friend, I was like, "You should come on my podcast." So like that's happening next week because sometimes you just need to have a great conversation in like the realm of the thing versus like exactly about the thing. So I totally love that. And you had a really great guest last week, Peter Wheeler. What a
Of
great
course,
show.
yes.
Oh, so good.
Did you know
Um
Peter worked with Kanye? Like, literally, that's what I love about doing these podcasts, talking to these guests. Like, if you don't know Peter Wheeler, Peter led growth, product led growth. Most of us know him as this awesome product led growth marketer. But then he's like, oh, by the way, like, he just casually listed Kanye with his other brands. And I'm like, hold on. I got to talk about this. And that's what my Spill the Tea segment's for. But he did this kick-ass experiential shit, and yeah, and like that's just part of the fun about having that, like talking about things that don't normally get spoken about.
yes. And people's backgrounds, like that's why I love hearing people's stories. And your story is so fascinating because I grew up in a similar realm. I'm still in the agency world. I haven't left. But I do love this aspect for you of like it sounds like there was we're going to go on a tangent here people. Welcome to the show. This is what I do. Um there's this lovely dichotomy of like you growing up in the agency world, but then you sort of like adulting in the brand world, like getting to join a startup in a brand and being in house. And you said that the culture was really important to you there. I'd love to understand what the difference in culture was for you and why you're like, if I found my home brand side and that's where I want to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few things. One is just the accountability aspect in terms of in a startup, like there is that complete ownership and you see things through to through.
Mm-hmm.
Agencies, you can do this as well, especially as you build long lasting relationships with clients. But many times on the agency side, you are in reactive mode or you're restricted to whatever that retainer is, or you're working on 20 different accounts that are kind of similar but maybe different and stuff like that. Biggest thing though is I think calls though, like the amount that I can I'm able to manage my energy so much better in these environments than I kind of was at an agency, meaning I was on calls all day. Everyone wanted to talk to
Mm-hmm.
me. I was on client calls, sales calls, internal calls. And it's not that I'm it's not that I'm anti-call, it's I'm also pro doing work,
Yeah.
which can be hard to be when you're always just on call.
Yes, especially if you're managing 20 accounts, which is not productive for anyone. Even like I run an agency and we're like on the 3 to 5 plan per person. Like it's about as much context switching as anyone should
Well, I
really
mean, the
take.
positive stuff, because I don't want to come across like, because like I've learned so much. It's where I
Yeah,
spent my career. I don't think there's a better place you can pick up so many different skills
sure.
than an agency. Again, not every agency is the same, but when you're at an agency and there's someone who's good at SEO and good at paid media and then good at PR, and then there's all these different departments and people, you see other people work, you pick up all these skills, and it's like it's a great way to learn things and be immersed. But yeah,
Definitely.
that's a drawback.
Yeah, no, I mean there's pros and cons to both, and I also having grown up, it was in the similar vein, right? Like you're working long hours, you're on multiple accounts, you're learning from other departments. It is definitely a grind, but it's also like where you want to be in your 20s. Like you want to be soaking it all up. It's like the best place to be, and then you get to adult later and take all those skills elsewhere. And yes, it's a wonderful journey, and I am totally here for it. Let's talk about where you are right now in terms of like a challenge you're currently facing. We're all human. This is hard. It's an interesting like I don't want to say like world out there, in terms of, there's tons of layoffs that are happening right now. There's the concept of doing less, doing more with a lot less. Um, there's resource challenges for sure. What is it for you? What's your biggest challenge right now?
So I think like obviously we can talk about like the state of marketing and the job market and all those things. But I think as a marketer and speaking from the marketing industry, I think the the most dangerous thing and the biggest challenge is the like commoditization of marketing. Meaning marketing's now a commodity. It's not an investment. It's just we're sinking money into this, or we're going to be super transactional about it. And what I again meaning by that, it's like marketing should have that seat at that table, and CMOs and marketing leaders shouldn't just be task takers or button pushers and things like that. These are people who have ideas and are growth oriented, but as costs go down, as people don't buy net new software, as everyone's worried about the economy, marketing costs money. And there's, especially in digital and demand, there is such scrutiny on every single dollar spent. So I think this also shows with the rise of fractional too. And again, there's so many great fractional people. I'm not saying anything bad about that, but I think that's why there's more fractional people than ever, because these organizations maybe view marketing more as that commodity than less as that investment and long-term commitment.
Yeah, it's really tricky when they see the price tag of like what marketing really costs to make it really effective. And it's a much harder story. What I feel like I'm hearing you say is it's like a harder sell. It's a harder story to tell these days, given the uncertainty of like where everybody's jobs are to where the economy might or might not go. That is
Yeah,
definitely a I don't want to say a downfall, but like a happenstance of where we are. It's
and I think that's just why a
frustration.
lot of marketers too are out of work, because there's all of these there's this viewpoint of marketing as commodity. There's more fractionals than ever now because of that. And again, there's also reasons why there's more fractional. Tons of people
Hmm.
love it. There's more freedom. Also, if you're a startup, there's tons of great reasons to work with freelancers, because you don't need full-time positions for everything, especially if you're scrappy or bootstrapped. Like
Yeah,
working with
you don't have the
freelancers,
budgets for that.
yeah,
Hmm.
working with freelancers is very much a part of that. But like the best way you work with a freelancer, especially in marketing, is when there's that marketing point of contact at least.
Yeah.
So just around that, and going back to more of marketing is a fun brand builder as well as a revenue generator.
Well, that leads perfectly into our conversation because it's this concept of yes and you need
Hashtag
both.
Ariana Grande, hashtag improv rules. Yes, and
Improv does rule. And you need, oh, sorry guys, you need both. I know that Brand like took a back seat for a while there and was like hanging out in, backstage and chilling while Lead sort of took the front stage to build that revenue in that bottom of the funnel. And then all of a sudden we looked up and said, where'd all of our leads go?
hmm
It's because Brand has been in the green room and we forgot about it. So need to bring that front and center. Let's unpack this though for folks. We're sort of skipping to the end. Um, it has been like this interesting flow for the last 10 years in terms of like hacks, right? We need to grow now. What are the hacks we can do between like putting things in the emails to a cold calling or to whatever, to them being like, okay, cool, we could just like get leads in all day. We got white papers, download, 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 download. And now this shift is sort of happening. To demand. From your point of view, what does demand gen mean and what has been the evolution of it in the last few years?
Yeah, and so one, I think in general there has been that evolution of demand generation, and now more than ever you see demand generation. To me, demand gen specialist is the new associate marketer or marketing coordinator. Like you look at job positions out there. There could be a demand gen specialist that's like an entry level job, but should be like a director, and then vice versa. So demand gen is in a state. But I think one, the reason why demand gen is so popular now is because when people say demand gen, they're like, oh, well, this is more about pipeline and it's more about revenue than other tactics and strategies. So that's where demand gen comes in. And I think the other part of it is a lot of people use ABM and demand gen interchangeably.
Really?
I think so, yeah, because like they're parts of one another, and
Sure.
like if you look at a demand gen job position too, like the first thing is like running ABM campaigns a lot of times too. So I think that is part of that rise, but to me, demand gen, like it's literally it's filling the pipeline, it's funnel focused, there is that growth aspect and awareness aspect, but it's typically a bit more campaign focused. And a lot of times there is more targeted accounts, and that's why ABM comes into play. But to
Sure.
me, demand gen is more of that campaign type focused, filling pipeline, awareness, acquisition, not necessarily the other aspects of a customer journey, of a buyer's journey. Demand gen's really more on the tactics to driving those MQLs and accepted meetings and pipeline. It's the blogging, it's the ads, it's all these different tactics to get people to fill things out, and it's just very very pipeline focused.
So the goal at the end of the day is pipeline, and it's thinking about all the tactics you need throughout the funnel to ultimately capture those people in the long run. In the long run, right?
To me, demand gen is very much something now synonymous with like marketing focused on pipeline, which means
Yeah.
marketing focused on filling the first few stages in our deal pipeline.
Shouldn't we
And
all be focused on pipeline?
well, yeah. So one, customer success should be focused on customers. I mean, engineering should be focused on that. But yes, we all should be, and every real marketing concept should be related to pipeline, and there always should be the why about it. Now, sometimes people will take that and be like, "Oh, well, this won't immediately lead to a meeting, so why should we invest in this for 6 months?" And that falls away with some of that demand gen parts of it. So that's where I come in, and that's where other marketing parts come in, and I think that's also why growth marketing is also pipeline focused. Product led growth, product marketing, it's also pipeline focused because at that it should be pipeline focused. But there are those other areas, and to me, it's kind of like obviously pipeline is the focus, but it's not necessarily the only thing your marketing team can be doing, because sooner or later, whatever demand gen actions you've been doing, if you've only been doing that, it's going to start drying up. And you don't want to put all your chickens in one, eggs or chickens in one basket. I don't know, either
All of
one.
them at the same time, because that's, you don't know which one's first. I think this is important because, and Trevor's saying it so fondly here, around demand gen without good brand building doesn't do well, and the market is barely starting to wake up to that and the implications of that. I think some brands have caught on simply because their pipeline is dried up and they're like trying to catch up. Um, I think this is interesting. So my understanding, and this is why you're the expert here, and I'm just taking my understanding based off of all the podcasts I've done and everyone else's points of view. So this is why your point of view is so important, because it's different. My understanding is that demand gen is a framework around how we get to pipeline, and then there's different approaches and tactics we can take within that, whether it's PLG, whether it's sales led, whether it's name this led thing here, and then the tactics that meet best with that, whether it's blogging or SEO should be in everything. But whether it's paid or getting social or influencer, apparently is like making a huge B2B influx here. I don't
As
want to
they
say comeback
should.
because I don't know that it was ever a thing, but like it's Forbes just did an article about it. So I think it's sort of these things that you start starting very, very high level, demand gen being sort of the umbrella, and then how you want to go after it, and then the tactics that fall under that approach is sort of like how I've come to understand it. Is that, would you
I think
agree?
going off of Trevor's point here in the comments is going saying demand gen without brand building doesn't do well.
Yeah.
And breaking that down is if your brand's not known and you're only trying to get a meeting, a very, transactional thing, it's harder. Like imagine getting an email from a salesperson from a company you've never heard of before
Yeah.
asking for a meeting, which people do all the
Worst.
time.
Hate it. Hate
But,
it.
and
Pitch
but then
stalking. Worst.
imagine getting an email from a company you do know really well,
Mm-hmm.
or that you actually went to yourself. And the reason that works, and the reason why a lot of larger big brand organizations do really well with demand gen is because they already have that brand established,
Yeah.
so that you can really just go into those demand gen tactics of ads, blogging, webinars, all of that stuff. And you mentioned it's a framework. Yeah, it's a framework, it's a strategy. Demand gen is a tactic that has other tactics, the way marketers talk. So
It's true.
that brand component is really what we're talking about here, where like if nobody knows you, if the market's super saturated, if you have zero market share, demand gen can do a whole lot for you, but we also need some of that other aspects here, those more holistic aspects that help getting that meeting all the more easier.
Yeah, I do think there's nothing worse. I think I got one earlier this week where somebody showed up my LinkedIn, not on like how you have your DMs in LinkedIn. There's like two sides of it now. There's like your
The
direct
other,
connection side, and then your other side. I got something in my direct connection side that was like a straight up pitch slap. I was like, dude, don't know you. Why is this even happening? Unfollow, on all of the things, right? Like that's my initial visceral reaction to that because I have no idea who you are. Let's talk about this from a growth standpoint because I think that's like where the rubber meets the road on this, and where demand falls down if you're not thinking about it from that initial. I feel like what I'm hearing you say, Lee, which I really love, is like demand gen's about building pipeline and that sort of like mid to bottom funnel, but those won't work unless you add to the top, which is the brand and the growth aspect. Am I?
yes. So add to the top, but also add to the bottom. So let's say we're talking about sandwiches here,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Demand gen could be like the meat in the sandwich, and like that is we're filling the pipeline. But slice of bread up top here is your tofu. Well, I shouldn't say tofu because we're not with sandwich. So it's your top of funnel.
Yeah,
Um,
tofu in a
and
sandwich. Why not?
and it's all of that stuff. It's the brand building stuff. It's well, I'm a vegetarian, so tofu literally is in my sandwich. I
So
just meant
good.
for confusing stuff. But like, so bread here, this is your top of funnel stuff. It's your brand building. Meat is demand gen, pipeline stuff. And then on the other side, and why I call myself a growth marketer with the holistic thing is, all right, we have them in here, but marketing's job isn't done because there's the nurtures that come into play. There is Peter said a great quote. He was quoting somebody else. So I'll just give him the quote. But on my episode with him, he was like, "You don't have a customer until they renew," and he said something like that.
So
So
true.
it's working with the CS and making sure there's the right resources for customers and keeping one like your job as a marketer isn't done because some of your customers might not even know your your brand name. They just know it's a tool they use and stuff. So there is that element, and that's where I add those other parts to it.
Oh my gosh, that's so interesting because when you think about growth, you don't necessarily think about it from, I mean, obviously you have the chart, right? You have the hockey stick sort of going from, nothing to, good, strong pipeline, and it's a bend, right? It's not linear. It's not like you're just going to slowly make your way up. It's like slow, 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 and then bam, like you're hitting that flywheel. And so that's what growth has always meant in my mind, but I never thought about it, which is so obvious now, that it would start at that place where you already have the lead. You just got to figure out what to do with them, which I think is where so much of marketing falls down these days. Trevor and I have had this conversation so many times about just because marketing gets a lead does not mean that you should immediately call them as sales and start pitching to them like yesterday. It's that growth element that needs to come in and play a really important part towards that, like helping them feel like they're ready to make a decision. People don't want to talk to sales until they're ready. I'm sorry, guys. The days of cold calling, I said this on a podcast that comes out on March 13th, whether, I'm going to live and die by it now because it's going to be out there in the world. But like, cold calling is dead in my eyes. And this is where growth becomes so important. And if we think about it this way, is huge. Is huge. So talk to me. You mentioned customer success, you mentioned email, but what of those makes it feel like it's it's the thing that makes the thing grow? Like it just feels like, okay, we have a lead, so we're going to email them and then like we'll close a deal, right?
So
Like
I think a better way, and we're kind of talking around this, and I know you were waiting to get there, but like a better way to answer this is really the growth marketing versus demand gen
okay,
type of because
lean
and
into
I'm
it.
sorry if I'm cutting there. Am I allowed
No,
to?
no, get to it.
Because
Let's do
that's
it.
the real answer. That's the real answer. With those other components. So step one for me. Sometimes like literally growth marketing and demand gen are the same thing and it's just semantics and it's a buzzword thing and fine whatever you can call me. I've been called the social media kid, the HubSpot guy, the demand gen marketer, the growth marketer, whatever. Semantics sometimes, and that's
Sure.
fine, whatever, if we're focused on results. Semantics.
Sure. Yeah.
So that's one scenario. The other scenario is really understanding what those differences are. And honestly, like there's more similarities than there are differences. But I think that's where we go in with this holistic approach. So like Oprah, let's take Oprah. Let's take book clubs, for example. Like to me, like growth marketing is like a book club and maybe you have different books coming in and you're promoting, maybe you have like different authors coming in, maybe you have the best snacks now so people keep coming back, and like that's growth marketing. But then we got Oprah here with her book list, her recommended list, whatever she does every year, and if you're on that, like you're
You're
golden.
gold.
Yeah, so demand gen is kind of like we're going to do everything to be on Oprah's list and really focus on that because that's going to lead to so many sales and we're going to put our efforts there. And that's more of the demand gen, and growth marketing is like that book club community, everything, and then we're
Universe.
testing which book to like and we're doing stuff like that. um that's where I say, I don't know, Oprah came into my head like
Oh,
always.
I mean, we could talk about Oprah all day. She's talk about brand building. Oh my gosh, the epitome right there. Her and Taylor Swift right now. Taylor is another
Mm.
one.
The economy right there, Taylor Swift.
Gosh. So it's still coming up to me. I love that we're talking about semantics, and I think that's important. And I actually prefer pulling these things apart because I do think that they get cobbled together, and it's bad. They should not be cobbled together. I also think growth got kind of a bad name, a bad rap these last like 10 years because it felt like, and I mentioned this earlier, when you mentioned growth marketing, it feels like how you're going to hack your way there. Like, what's that? It's kind of like the Oprah scenario of like, well, if I could just get on Oprah's book club, then like I've made it, right? Not
Hmm.
counting all the ways you have to sort of like work your way into Oprah's sphere to like make that happen and the huge lift that that is. But growth hacking, like one example that always comes up, I think, is for Google, right? When Google, early days of Google, when they wanted to get their email out there and get more people into their email system, it was that they just added this stupid link at the bottom of your email that said email from Google, right? And then people wanted to know what this Google thing was, and then they clicked on it and they signed up and now they had an account, right? Like that's a hack. And unfortunately, I don't want to say those days are done. They're just harder to come up with and harder to find and harder to like figure out. And so I think growth got a bit of a bad name because it got tied into you having to hack your way there. Where's the shortcuts? It's like Zoom info lists, right? Like there was a time where you could just download a list and then go cold call these people and then you would end up with a bunch of leads that actually wanted to buy, and that was great for like a hot second, but those days are like gone because buyers figured out that they were being
I still
hacked.
think you can cold call the right way for the right people. I still think you can.
We might need to circle back on that, but
Hmm.
i do I do think that growth and hacks sort of got tangled up together, and I also feel like from what you're saying, demand gen and growth, I think they're two different things. And I
Oh,
love how you put
I
it as a
100%.
sandwich.
They are. They're different things. Because to me, like that is, and again, like demand gen is more of that strategy tactic where I see growth marketing more as a strategy or methodology or approach type thing. And to me, demand gen is a part of growth marketing.
Yeah,
And there's that
I can see that.
distinction. But we can go even further. I mean, let's go back to the textbook. Marketing is an umbrella term. There's so many things under marketing. It's not just ads. Public relations is its own category, but that's
Sure.
marketing and it's under that umbrella. So that's why there are so many of these breakdowns that there is growth marketing and product led growth and demand gen and ABM managers, because like all things, as more technologies come out and as people have gotten better with certain skills, we've had that need to really differentiate ourselves.
Define it.
Marketers too. I'll make one last point. Sorry, I'm talking
No, no, that's
over
good.
you. I'll make one last, like, so I think marketers have a tendency to over architect and over analyze and really put things in buckets. And to
Hmm.
me, sometimes I'm like, I don't care if we call this a demand gen campaign and you call me a growth marketer, demand gen. As long as we get the results,
Yeah.
that's what focus. Other times I'm like, okay, though, we have to be really, really like focused on here. Where are we putting our efforts? Because to me, that growth marketing strategy again is you're splitting yourself a bit more. Yes, you're pipeline focused, but you're also on the right brand building, the right acquisition, and then the right nurturing or the right referral program afterwards, or things like that.
Yeah. You do need to have what's going to work for you, right? Every brand's a little different in terms of what recipe you sort of need to bring it together, and not do random acts of marketing, right? That's really, I think that's why we all sort of need like a framework. Give me a strategy, give me an approach, give me a thing that like I can hang my tactics on and make sure
Hmm.
we're all driving towards the ultimate goal of revenue. Let's talk about, I really want to sit here in the growth side of it though, because I feel like we all get the lead and then we don't know what to do with them. And it sounds like that's where the magic sort of happens, whether we call it growth or they call it demand or both. What is that for you? In, you mentioned customer success, is that, is there tactics under customer success, or break this apart for me from a nurture standpoint versus a customer success standpoint?
before we get to like the CS, there is that part where like one, it's like the talking to the sales and AEs and that obvious stuff about okay, have we gotten them the right lead? So that's that obvious
Good
element. You
question.
can do the
Yes.
same you can do the same thing with CS. It's like, okay, yes, they're onboarded, but are they happy customers? Did they understand the product and the website properly from the website, from the marketing? Are certain customers churning for a certain reason that we should make adjustments on the marketing side to either back up on or clarify? Are there certain things that customers are complaining about or loving? So like joining calls is amazing. Obviously you can listen to gong calls and
Sure.
recordings, but literally like sometimes your customers and your CS people will explain things in a way that marketers just didn't, and like sometimes it's awesome and you really just do that. The other thing, like CS is just the unsung heroes of everything,
Yeah.
so they're so
They are the
busy.
front lines. Yeah.
I try not to bother them, but like I want to make sure that when we do get them these customers, they're not just going to churn in 6 months because all we cared about was getting anybody here and marketing worked somehow, but they weren't, right? And not that that would, but I mean it could.
It has. No, for sure. Let's talk about that. So let's talk about the sales side of it first, like before they're actually a customer, and the tactics from a growth standpoint of like you have all of these leads sitting in your CRM that you did a great job through demand getting, but like now what? Do you send them directly to sales and let sales vet them and then tell you whether they're a good lead or not? Or do you have a system that vets them up front? Like, what's sort of your approach to figuring out how to get somebody from a lead over to sales appropriately?
So figuring out when they should get there, part of it honestly depends on how busy sales is. So if you're in a scenario where they're not fully packed schedules and on calls all day, it could be worth being a bit more lenient up front on who we're sending sales if they're not as busy. But let's say we're in a situation where they're already pretty busy with enough calls. Yeah, there's room for more, but they have a good amount. That's the situation where we don't necessarily want to send them everyone because they're already busy. But I also don't. I want them to believe in marketing, trust me as their teammate, as their marketer. So I only want to be sending them a lead when that lead is ready. I don't want them to be like, why are you calling me? And this really varies because like I know companies that they literally call people after downloading ebooks and it worked great for them. I know other companies where like don't do that, obviously. Uh, so there is that part of it. But like I'd say, all right, we have a lot of leads here. We're doing great. Who do we prioritize? That's where your lead scoring comes into
So you do
play.
believe in lead scoring. Okay, great.
I believe. Do people not believe in lead scoring?
I think everybody just approaches it differently.
Lead scoring
So
isn't Jesus, people. It's not a religion thing. You don't get to like lead score is a thing.
lead scoring is a thing. I think it's just that everybody approaches it differently. So for you, how do you lead score? Do you use like a certain system like Lattice, or do you just do it based off of like how many opens and engagement?
Yeah.
Sort of your approach.
So again, it really depends on how complex and how many actions are going on. But I think this really talks to, again, but going back to marketers over architecting things.
We're
It
really good
doesn't
at that.
always need to be crazy. It could literally just be like, hey, these people opened 3 emails, viewed these pages. Let's give them additive scores. They viewed the pricing page or did a product tour. Let's give them another score. Oh, they unsubscribed, negative, whatever. So it doesn't always need to be like this big, massive thing that makes everybody nervous. In fact, it shouldn't be because then it gets even harder to change because you should be changing it as you go along. That maybe we're giving too many points here and everybody opens up tons of emails and it's not a good thing. So that's where lead routing really comes into play. The other is that intent data. So again, another thing that people over architect, tons of great intent data tools that will tell you everything from what the person had to breakfast to their mother's maiden name to like how they're shopping. Like, so again, so many good things out there. You want to know if that person's in market, but you don't also need to go overboard with that data. So sometimes just knowing if they've been to your website or certain pages is enough. Other times, yes, we do want to have them. Yes, they're an in-market audience because of something else they did, and yada yada
Big
yada.
help
But
with the
again, it's
top.
using all that data points to inform and then push to sales.
This leads kind of nicely into ABM for a hot second because we talked about how ABM and demand sort of get tangled together. I'll put my stake in the ground. ABM is a tactic slash like approach to demand, kind of like you could sort of use ABM to help PLG, but it's not the only thing in demand that you can be doing. It's a part of demand. Yes, agree, disagree, tell me
Agree.
more.
No, I agree. Like again, I think it's like ABM is is part of that demand gen, which can be part of growth marketing.
Yeah,
But it is demand gen isn't necessarily you're doing that account part of it. It's not saying you're getting specific. Demand gen doesn't have to be account specific. It
sure.
just again focused more on getting the actual demand for that product. So creating it, we're doing everything like that. That's where that comes in.
Oh, Trevor says it so nicely here. Intent should inform all phases of sales readiness.
Hmm.
ABM shouldn't be based on intent, and intent should inform how you treat a target account at any given time. Yes, I agree that ABM is really about what accounts you want to go after, of like who's in your ideal customer profile, and but intent can inform whether they who within the account is the ones that are actually investigating this thing and who you might want to be talking to and how you market to all the people involved. So intent plays a role, but it shouldn't be the thing that tells you what accounts you should be going after.
Yeah, that's the point. Like your intent shouldn't change your ICP criteria unless it's some crazy situation where nobody in your ICP ever has like you have your ICP wrong and your persona wrong. I think where intent does come into play, it's more of that prioritization.
Yeah.
So if things are going awesome, if we are getting all these leads, how do I help my salespeople spend their day on the most effective things that are most likely to add
Yes.
value?
I totally agree with that. I think that's, oh man, if we could all get that right, it would be it would be magical. It would be
But like sometimes
magical.
it literally as simple as we have like this AE or this SDR is focused on this long list because we have our ICP right, we've got our target accounts. It could be as simple as, hey, this person viewed our website or the pricing page today. Let's bump them to the top of the list or
Pricing.
something like that. It could be that simple. Like changes like that that just help your salespeople prioritize who to talk to first can make
Yeah.
all the difference. And then that's why people get crazy with intent data.
It's easy to do, especially if your website's really big. But I think
Hmm.
just bucketing it in terms of the funnel, top funnel consideration, purchase, right? Like,
Intent data tools have also done a great job of FOMO, where it's like if you're not using our intent data, then you're reaching the wrong people. And I'm when I see like a 30K line item in any tool, and they're saying, "Oh, our match rate for your ads is going to be better," like I'm gonna be like, "Okay, like what do you do differently from me? Why can't I just upload the list myself?" And like a lot of times they can't answer it, or they're like, "Oh, well, we have like their personal email address too," or something like that. So like that's why intent data has gotten some of that rap because people were obsessed with it for a hot minute.
it seems like I generally only work um because I'm on the agency side. I generally don't get to like hang out within all the CRMs that I would love to. I was Marketo certified like a million years ago, and I've dabbled in HubSpot. I use Active Campaign for my own agency and for some of my client
I'm a
for some of my
HubSpotter. I'm a HubSpot
fractional.
boy.
Yeah, so but I do feel like CRMs have stepped up their game in terms of being able to create some of that scoring pretty easily without needing to buy more Martech tools to
Hmm.
weigh us down. So
That said, those CRMs really just like if you do need some kind of intent, they don't do it. Like you need
no,
another tool with it.
you do. For HubSpot
Yeah.
specifically, you need another tool.
I mean, like, sure. Again, like, you can, if you really want intent, like, HubSpot, for example, like, they have like a prospecting thing that they bury, but Like it's not as useful like if you're really trying to like especially if you're working in a SaaS motion where there's long sales cycle, which is pretty much everyone in B2B.
Yeah.
Prioritization just comes into play like crazy. So if you have a target account list and your salespeople are just reaching out, and then when you add intent data, and if their rates start increasing, which they should, that means intent data is doing a good job. If it stays the same, it just means you're making everyone's life harder.
Well, let's just talk about this for a second because we've sort of bounced around to topics, which I think is awesome and I'm here
I mean,
for.
you've met me, so like
I
that's how I
mean, it's
operate.
the best. I think there's so many nuggets here people are going to walk away with. Let's give them one thing to really chomp down on, which is what we've like really laid out here around intent data and what intent data really is. So, in terms of like how you quantify when you're saying intent data, what I'm hearing you say, Lee, is it comes down to basically website. I'm oversimplifying, of course, but basically website interaction, what pages they visited. Maybe you could go by channel in terms of like organic social versus SEO that helps versus a paid ad, right? In terms of like how you grade those.
Websites are like website view is like the easy
Lying
like
fruit.
that's like the basic intent data. Like another good one that like a lot of tools use is intent data as in all right, this person is viewing G2 and trust radius, like all these places
Oh,
for a certain category.
that's
And it should be
huge.
right. That's another huge play. Knowing that people are and like Bambor is like another tool like that does it. So it's like taking like intent data is just other things, other pieces of information that indicate these people are more likely to buy for some reason. So it's like these people have indicated by some way that they're more interested in your category, in your product category. They're looking for that solution, and that's where all these tools have it. They visited G2, or they're searching for this stuff, or all these different motions. And again, the more intent data there is, the more it gets complicated. But that's why people go really ham on it, because it's like, why reach out to everybody when I can only be reaching out to the people that are ready to buy? Again, the problem becomes is just because intent data is saying they're ready to buy might not mean that they actually are. Uh, but that's typically why I do encourage some kind of intent data when you're really trying to help sales figure out what to focus on and marketing what to focus on.
It sounds like there's different layers of how you can go about intent because, like you said, marketers love to over engineer everything. How many tools can we throw at this thing, and how much can we wire them up, and how much can we automate, and how much can we like not touch this and then let it do its thing until it hits sales? I think there's different different layers of that. So it sounds like there's some aspects within your CRM that you could wire up to get some intent data as like depending on how big you are, right?
What you're saying is the first party versus third party intent
Yes.
data differences.
Yes.
So first party, your website, your CRM, that
Yes.
stuff. Third party, that's where all those other tools come into play, where these buyers are doing all these actions that we are tracking because our tool is amazing and
We're
we
so
know that
fancy.
they're engaging with your product or your category. And
And I think
that's what it is.
yes, and I think there what I'm trying to get to is to help people figure out when they need which thing, right? So to your point, if you
They
are a
should hire
SaaS
me if they
product,
need that.
one thing that you said that I think is really important is that if you are a SaaS and you have multiple layers in which people have to go through your buying cycle, and if you're and especially if you're trying to do PLG where it is very hands off, right? You do want this thing to basically scale itself. That's the whole point of product led growth. Then having these extra tools is going to be huge because you're probably not investing as much into potentially a sales team. So putting that money and effort into that intent data that's third party is awesome. But if you're more heavy on sales, if you're more heavy on not on them needing to call a salesperson, um, and your website is, more around that engagement piece of telling people what they need and why they need it, then you starting off in a place of first party is probably a great place to start. You might need the third party data later, and that would be great to layer in, but I know all of these MarTech tools can get over daunting. So knowing like where to begin, I think is really helpful, and that's why I was trying to pull them apart.
Yeah, always begin with anything first party you can do. And if your SaaS again doesn't always need all these extra steps, but if you are a larger organization, or if you're more complex, or if the tool is a pretty high ticket item, which again a lot of SaaS are, that's where this comes into play, and putting all of that in.
Yeah. I mean, that third party data is like sounds totally magical, especially if you get into the G2 stuff to really understand like what people are searching for. That's wild.
Mm-hmm.
That's wild. Um, we went through quite a few topics here, Lee, from defining demand gen to understanding how growth fits in or around, to getting into the meat of it, the sandwich, in terms of talked about Oprah, because I mean you can't not have a conversation about Oprah or Taylor Swift right now. I sneak her in wherever I can, and how you can really bring in that intent data, that ABM, those channels to help you cultivate your audience and really to help sale. At the end of the day, pipeline is sales, folks. So like, how can we support our sales teams to get to that pipeline and make everyone's jobs easier all around? Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yes. And these marketing distinctions are important. They exist for a reason, because like it becomes very helpful, especially when a marketing leader is building their team. Do I need a demand gen person who is really going to be focusing on those tactics specifically, or maybe do we want to put more into growth marketing, which has that pipeline focus as well, but also comes into play with the brand building, with customer referral parts of it, success parts of it, and things like that. So again, if you're not sure, feel free to hit me up on it. But I'd say like always go back to what your goal is and what the results you want to be, and where you also want to be in not just a month from now, but next quarter and the quarter after that and next year.
And how your product is built is going to play a part, especially if it's SaaS. And if you
Mm-hmm.
need more tips and tricks from the Sassiest podcast, be sure to check out Lee to be. The link is in the show notes. Lee, you and I met on LinkedIn. Is that the best place to find you?
Yeah, message me on LinkedIn. That's really the only one people should contact me on. Go to again Google Elite2B. It'll come up. Listen to me on Spotify, Apple, anywhere. I have a bunch of ABM specific episodes that if you're interested, we can go in further with Mason Cosby, Karina Owens. It's just the PLG episode. Have some sales ones as well, because I always like talking to salespeople.
They're
But
wonderful.
yeah, thank you so much, Carrie, for letting me come on and spew demand gen and growth marketing at your audience.
Ah, I loved every minute of it. I do want to say, closing out here, Lee, you are more than a marketer. So 2024, I feel like this is the year where we're coming out of this smog, the fog that was COVID. We're living with it. We're figuring it out. But like, what are you most looking forward to this year now that that dust has settled ish?
Well, I don't know. Like, I feel like I've gotten past the part of like looking forward to things and just hoping more bad things don't happen. I mean, I'm kind of kidding, but like this is an election
Okay.
year,
It
so
is tough
like
year.
this is an election year.
It is. It's definitely a tough year. I'm on the edge of my seat. I have registered. I am across seas, but don't you worry.
I
I've
should say something
registered
more
and I will be
positive
voting.
though at the end, though. I shouldn't just say. What was your question? I just went
Well,
negative.
why don't you tell me my other favorite question asking people is coming out of COVID, what is a hobby you've picked up over the last few years?
Mm.
What have you leaned into? What do you totally love
Ooh,
doing?
ooh, yes. Perfect answer for this. That's see, much. I'm a homebody, so perfect answer for me. So COVID, The Queen's Gambit came
Oh,
out on
so
Netflix.
good. Yes.
Amazing show. Amazing
So
show. I played chess, as a kid, like many people did. But like I stopped. So we watched Queen's Gambit, my boyfriend and I, like episode one, and then like played some games of chess. Horrible games of chess. We didn't really know it then. Um, we finished Queen's Gambit, and then like we kind of just, we started playing online with different people. He went crazy into it. Like I used to be better. He studied and knows lines and all this stuff with chess. But yeah, like literally went from like never really playing chess as an adult or in years to like I play at least one game of chess a day. Like you can,
Oh,
if you want, if you're on chess.com, feel free to play me. I also think it's very much like digital marketing. I'm not going to do a cheesy analogy like I want to, but like one of the reasons I also
not
like it is
wrong.
because it's like it involves some kind of brain stimulation, but it's not like overpowering where like I have to, like I'm not a big video game person because like I don't want to learn all of, like the rules and controls, and like it feels like work. Like I don't know how people like play some of these games. So yeah.
Yeah, I totally feel you. The only video game I play these days is with my son. It's called Fall Guys, and it's because you basically try and run in a straight line from point point B and not get knocked over. Like, yes, I can
I
do
I will
that.
always play Smash Bros with somebody. So like that I'll
Same,
always play
same.
Smash Bros. Yeah.
Yes, yes, very simple. I'm here for it. Lee, this was amazing. I'm so grateful. Thank you for joining me. If you
Thank
like this
you.
episode, please like, subscribe, and share. This episode is brought to you by MKG Marketing, the digital marketing agency that helps complex brands get found via SEO and digital ads. The show is hosted by me, Carrie Gard, CEO and co-founder of MKG Marketing. And if you'd like to be a guest, I'd love to have you. Hit me up on LinkedIn and we'll hang out. But Trevor, so grateful for you. Lee, thank you again.